Good afternoon, once again. Welcome back to the Senate Committee on Government Operations Committee hearing of Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. The final item up for our consideration today is House or Senate Bill 298, an act relating to creating Vermont protection of voting. And Tim Devlin is going to join us. Shay Waters Evans, the representative from Charlotte will be as well. And also I understand Lauren Hibbert from the Secretary of State's office will be here.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at the bill overview. Is that still
Up to date. Yep.
up to date? Okay, great. So let's, I think we walked through this actually already.
Yes.
I apologize.
It has red and black and blue.
Oh, that's right. It was the multicolored one.
So did you have any questions about the changes?
No, but it was when we walked through the changes. Last.
Question. Bingo, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can walk through them again.
Well, or just remind us what the key changes are.
Sure. Okay.
I have it, I'm just pulling it all up. Right. Oh, they're here. Right. If you could just high level, just remind us as we go into this last bit.
Happy to. Thank you for having me, committee members. For the record, my name is Tim Devlin, by the State Council. You have a bill overview of draft 5.1 came out of House Government Operations from the Military Affairs Committee. This was what the House ultimately passed, so it's still up to date. The text in red indicates changes that the House made to the Hawaii Senate bill. So the first thing they did was they renamed it from the Voter Rights Act to the Voter Protections Act. The second thing they did was kind of rearrange, is how I'll put it, vote dilution or denial. Parts of the bill, those were substantially unchanged. The only real difference is that there was a definition here of what constitutes a protected class. They had disability, in addition to language minority group, as well as race, color, or race and color. The effect of that reorganization into 17 VSA chapter 35 versus giving it its own chapter in Title 35 is that it will enable the Attorney General to have civil investigatory authority so that they can look into it. And that's basically incorporated by reference, essentially. The next significant difference would be the alteration of the voter intimidation and election interference sections.
Yeah.
The Senate bill had 4 distinct criminal penalties.
Right.
And then this essentially conflates it into one, borrowing the language that came from the House Judiciary Bill, H 541, which went through Senate Judiciary. I'm not sure if it ever stopped by here, but if you're interested to kind of compare and contrast, I have side by side of the 4 versus the 1 to really get into the weeds, if you like, there. But suffice to say, they're substantially similar in effect. The one here that the House injected, 541, is more generalized. It's how we characterize it, but very much covers captures much of the same misconduct. So let's see. The next part of the bill has to do with what was added for cloth. We have provision about voter checklists. And
Can we go back
Yeah.
to page, well, I'm looking on page 3 of draft 5.1. I still have an issue with the phrase membership in a language minority group. I don't know what that means. And I think without a definition, it gets really dicey for a municipality to try to navigate.
Small flocks of backyard poultry. Oh, we could do some training here.
I mean, I would just soon strike that, and I don't mind the adding of or having a disability, which we didn't talk about again. But I don't know what that means, membership in a language minority group?
It is not defined. So a court would they'd approach it by saying, okay, is the meaning inherently obvious just from this plain language on the page? Knowing that it's okay, a known term of art, but probably look to usage elsewhere in law, even though it wouldn't be necessarily binding. So they look to federal equivalents, other states, but that would be more persuasive than purely authoritative. And so they could open up for the courts to create a definition of their own, fill it in here, or maybe copy and paste from somewhere else would perhaps be a likely outcome.
Is that the only reference to that phrase in the bill?
Just in this subchapter, yes. I think it appears 2 or 3 times.
So
The 2 ends subchapter 6 protection.
I know this may seem to be a silly thing to worry about, but if I lived in a certain section of Vermont, which had a great amount of diversity, and I was in essence, by speaking English in a minority group in that community, could that be part of?
Yes, you could ask for a ballot or access to a translation of the ballot in your language. That's what this is doing. It's not what this is doing.
It doesn't affirmatively require a municipality to produce ballots in different languages necessarily. I know last time I was in here, I
Well,
said.
what's it doing then?
Too.
And what's the point, if it's not having people understand who they're voting for and
That would be a possible remedy that the courts could offer, but the statute's silent to exactly what the nature of the exact claim could look like. It'd be fact particular. It's written broadly so that somebody could bring, a variety of possible
this
issues
isn't-
and fall under.
for what municipalities are required to provide. This is for,
Vote dilution offenses and vote denial offenses, yes.
Both at the state level and municipality.
Yes.
So again, my solution would be to strike membership in a language minority group. Leave the rest of it, race, color, disability, understood. I understand, I think what those mean, but I don't understand what the other means.
And if it would be helpful for the committee, I could go into one of the earlier Senate drafts where I think it was explicitly defined.
yes, we have to sign this because, I mean, for me, membership in a language minority, it's an awkward phrasing of it. But it just means that you're a member of a minority group that speaks a different language. So you could be Nepalese living in Woodstock and but I guess I don't understand is this is giving people standing in order to be able to function.
This would enable an individual to essentially file a claim that they feel.
Yeah, if they feel that they haven't, that they're not being served.
Yes, and it would actually be a claim with the Attorney General who would then get into it. I'm sorry, I didn't want to be discussing.
I thought we had like another part of the bill that we were working towards a QR code where you could get a ballot in almost any language that's spoken in Vermont.
This bill doesn't go into the particulars of such proposal.
But isn't this also in the language surrounding vote dilution? So it has nothing to do really with ballot access and everything to do with how districts are drawn.
Yes.
So
That's right.
this language contemplates a few different scenarios. Racial gerrymandering is certainly one of them. It will, let me pull up the exact language here. It's justified, but it's also, as much as it's about vote dilution, it's also about vote denial. And there can be other mechanisms brought into play where an individual could be denied the vote to right or the right to vote based on their membership in a language minority. So the statute doesn't specify what that is because it could take on various forms. It's written broadly to.
Okay, so it isn't just about the sort of traditional thought of vote dilution, which is gerrymandering. It's also, if a Spanish speaker comes into the polls and the town clerk says you can't vote, you speak Spanish.
To me,
That
that's
would be a denial of their right to vote.
Right.
Sure. Yep. That would
because you're a member of a minority, a language, it's an awkward phrase, I don't disagree with you. But it does mean that if you speak a language. that
Other
is
than
the
what the
minority
majority
language in
speaks.
that area, it gives you standing on a claim
To
to.
say that that was discriminatory.
Right.
Yes, that's.
Well, I've made my case. I want it struck.
If we could do that in conference committee?
Sure.
Should be stronger, but I'm not supportive of it getting struck, because I think that is a way people discriminate, is that, well, you know, you don't understand this.
And it's not affirmatively making ballots be available in another language. It's saying that you can't deny someone to the right to vote on the basis that they don't speak
That they
English.
don't speak the language.
That is correct.
Right.
And it also, would say that, it would afford an individual who believes they're free, and the process would be going to the Attorney General's office and having them enforce, really, let's see. I don't know, just rereading this real quick. Right, so no voting qualification or prerequisite to voting, whatever form those could take. Again, just narrative standards, which could be. Aside from just explicitly figure it out.
So I don't want to.
So fairly rural areas where I represent, let's say, I don't know, small town, 600 people, whatever. Up to that municipal. So somebody went in and was speaking fluent Arabic or whatever, Spanish. And if we didn't, how would the municipal, give me some examples of how you think the municipal would be able to solve or remedy that problem.
Yeah, how would the,
I'm just thinking of poor communities. I don't want to see them get caught up.
yeah, I agree, but
Sue, I'm just curious.
Sure, there's nothing in here that would require a municipality, explicitly require.
Right.
Like, and wouldn't require a municipality to adopt a certain measure to alleviate. It permits them to do so, but it would prevent them from introducing a qualification or prerequisite to voting. So like a literacy test would be the historic example, or
Right.
act or things like that. But it wouldn't be some affirmative step that would be taken by the municipality to provide additional services to a member in a language minority group. That being said, whatever, let's say the town acts up, let's say if they introduce a literacy test or something like that, a court could come in, provide injunctive relief saying, nope, you're not going to do that. That violates this provisional law here. And as a remedy, could not only provide injunctively stopping that behavior, there's the world court perhaps, they could impose some additional requirement of the town to.
Have you had any cases like this before?
But John, I would think a thoughtful clerk, if you had somebody who spoke a language,
I agree with you already.
a thoughtful clerk would call the Secretary of State's office and say, we have a family that's moved in who speaks Arabic, and they don't read English well. But do you have a ballot available? Could you make a ballot available to us in Arabic or arrange for a translator for us? And I think that the Secretary of State would then work with the town to provide that. I don't think this is, I think a thoughtful clerk would help solve the problem.
And they do now currently.
Yes,
as far as I
they have so many
Really good.
thoughtful clerks.
Really good counselors.
And
Yeah,
I'm thinking of possible other examples of what, so this again is no voting qualification or prerequisite to voting or standard practice or procedure. So we have things like racial gerrymandering and the redistricting process. We have literacy tests is gone, of course. It could be something like offering drop boxes in one neighborhood but not another.
right.
We know that people of this language minority group don't speak it, so they have less access to it. There'll be a discrepancy in terms where you can essentially, or this local government can easily determine a group of people based on some factor, those being race, color, membership of the minority group, and then serve them differently.
Thank you. We can move on and
Okay,
vote.
check. So, voter checklist then is Right. So this will, okay, add a new subsection C to 17, BSA 2154 to require that any person wishing to obtain a copy of the municipality's portion of the statewide voter checklist or any other municipal voter checklist shall swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the person will not A, use the checklist for commercial purposes, or B, knowingly disclose the checklist to any foreign government or to a federal agency or commission or to a person acting on behalf of either of those in circumvention of prohibited person purposes for using the checklist. And then also you should note that the existing law only explicitly requires this for copies of the statewide or checklist, but doesn't really provide any instruction for to the local portions of that.
So is it existing law that you can't give it to a federal entity?
Yes, the state
Okay.
version. And then there's some more process, but that's
Okay.
for the state purposes. So the part three, we have disclosure for candidates for state, legislative, and county office. Here's where we have the additional kind of posting and receiving, answering questions, responsibilities being put upon the ethics commission and some hyper-specific instructions for exactly how they should be presenting information, what information you're presenting, et cetera, et cetera. And then section 5 will suspend the enforcement and penalties for any candidates for state legislative and county offices who delinquently file, properly file the financial disclosure form. Then we go on to part 4 of the bill.
Sorry, can I just?
Yeah.
Suspense, will suspense.
Sorry, will suspend. Yep, that's a typo. I'll correct that. Suspend.
But I was thinking, maybe I just didn't.
Not creating a sense of suspense.
I have a sense of suspense as to when the ethics commission will ever be able to have the resources to do its work.
So I'll make that typo correction for the next version.
Gives me, yeah, budget correction too while you're at it.
Part 4 of the bill has to do with safety protection for candidates. This looks somewhat similar to what passed out of this body, but there's more specificity introduced. This is again part of the campaign finance.
Right, this is a little
Where we have the definition of what entails an expenditure, and now this will explicitly include that expenditures may include those expenditures that are incurred for the provision of monitoring systems, protective detail, and cybersecurity related to a candidate's security, and which is for candidate security for.
So this elaborates on it.
It does. And that's it.
Questions for Tim? Okay, I don't see Representative Shea Evans here yet, but
Lauren walked in perfect timing. Right when we're batting about section 4.
and we'll certainly give Lauren an opportunity to weigh in. If anybody has questions for Tim, now would be the time, because this might well be
Yeah.
the last iteration before we decide one way or another. Okay.
So I appreciate your request, and maybe we can discuss that as a committee. I know 2 of us weighed in, but everybody else is on your suggestion.
Sending it to a special group.
Send it to the ethics commission, the whole thing.
Oh.
No, page 2, your request to suggest that we strike the membership with.
Oh, well, it just seems to me to be a unnecessary
But
and vaguely worded.
I think it's not a great language, but what it does for me is it makes sure that we,
If it said something like,
if it's purposeful that you're excluding somebody because they don't speak the language that you have the
Agreed.
ballot available and you make no effort to try and solve that problem by calling the Secretary of State's office and getting that ballot in Arabic or helping provide a translator.
if it was worded in such a way that said, to the greatest extent possible, accommodations will be made for those that don't speak, I don't want to say English, but who speak different languages, kind of thing. to me, membership in a language minority group, does that mean you have to ask to be a member? I don't know what membership means.
Big time it doesn't.
Senator Yost,
If the question at hand was that we were requiring towns to do something but we're not, we're prohibiting that being something that can be discriminated, and particularly on the point of drop boxes, knowing that many of our refugee communities, many of our American communities often live in fairly tight communities. That idea of not putting a drop box somewhere because you know that that's a group of Nepalese speakers is really powerful to me, knowing, you know, particularly in Burlington and in Winooski, that those communities tend to gravitate towards living together. And we're not in this bill in any way requiring the Secretary of State or municipalities to do anything. We're saying you can't discriminate on this basis. And so, I mean, I think we could frame it differently or define it, but what it is prohibiting, I think, is actually really
Is important,
to
yeah.
prohibit.
That's how I feel as well.
okay.
And do we have it, Tim, what was the definition that was taken out? That we had, because we had something, chief.
I was just looking through earlier versions of this. I'm not sure if this term was ever explicitly defined. I have to take a little bit more time to check.
Okay, because I agree, it does sound odd, the word membership. It's just basically,
But
you can't discriminate against people who,
in other places too, you know, you can't discriminate based on membership in a racial minority, like that's, we use that in other places. It's not something we don't ever use. But we can also phrase it differently if that's.
Well, that means another iteration.
Like,
I don't think I'm,
up for another iteration.
well, I'm not gonna dive into it. I just wanted to point out that I thought it was very awkward and I don't like it, but
No, I agree it's awkward, but I think the principle behind it is so,
okay.
that's sort of how I feel. Oh, that is part of it.
So, thank you, Tim. So let's invite Lauren up. We're waiting for Jay. We have two new sections of this. Well, more than two new sections, but two substantive additions in terms of sections that were crafted by the House Government Operations Committee after this bill left the Senate. One of them has, again, very specific language regarding the duties of the State Ethics Commission, and the other is a suspension of penalties for those running for office who don't timely. It doesn't say that they don't at all. It just says delinquent violence. And I don't know what that means exactly either, but is delinquent a day? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it a year? I don't know. So welcome. And I'm sure you want to have some ability to weigh in on this. I'm not sure where it's all going to wind up, whether it goes back and forth a couple more times or whether there's another request made for a conference on it. I don't know.
Okay,
We're in the process of figuring.
well, for the record, my name is Lauren Hibbert and I'm the Deputy Secretary of State. And I just want to say, on whole, all of the amendments that the House made, my office does support. And again, I want to affirm that with this voter protection bill, and we have made a commitment both in this committee, in HGO, and to a wide variety of stakeholders that we are committed to bringing, doing some work over the summer on making sure that we work on a true Vermont Voter Rights Act, and then bring you a bill next session that is more inclusive. I think to the conversation you just were having about identification and protection for non-English voters. We want to really work on that. Disability, we want to work on that. So there's quite a few groups that we want to talk to and engage with, and have a true voter rights act for Vermont, and then ultimately probably a true Vermont voter bill of rights as well. Those are two separate concepts, both I think important in a longer trajectory, and made very clear by the Supreme Court decision of last week.
Yes.
So,
Do we currently have something up on the website that is sort of akin to identifying what Vermont voters are, right?
I don't know. I'd have to look at that, but I don't believe we do.
Yeah, 'cause that
There are
it would be so great.
There are states that have passed voters' bill of rights, Connecticut, a couple of other states. So I would have to look into it. That's certainly what we would be looking toward. I think it's a good place for us to get to. So, Section 4. Section 4 is related to the Ethics Commission, as is Section 5, as you well know. We are in, my office is in a place where the Ethics Commission has been given the responsibility to create and maintain the candidate disclosure form. And when we saw that in conjunction with the penalties, which the penalties are if somebody does not file within a set number of days. I'm looking at legislative council, I believe it's 10 days. We created a flow chart of the statute, and I unfortunately didn't bring this.
We love a flow chart.
Yeah, I'll ask for us to send you a copy of the flow chart. It certainly is on HGO's site, but I'll make sure that you have it as well. I ran up, I was in a meeting and then was told you guys wanted me here, so I came here without that.
Oh, thank you.
So the candidate, after the filing period is done, has a period of days, I believe it's 10 days,
Okay.
to cure the fact that they haven't filed the financial disclosure form. And then after that, the Ethics Commission we have the burden of telling the Ethics Commission who hasn't filed. Then the Ethics Commission works with the candidate to say you haven't filed, can file. And then in that period of time, if the candidate does not file after that period of time, then the Ethics Commission can start to issue fines. And it's on a per day basis.
Senator Nelson.
I guess I'm just curious, and maybe we made this a lot in the past, but I don't recall that. Given that the Secretary of State's office regulates elections and is in charge of all things candidates, and what you've just described as this ping pong of it gets filed with you, you give them information, they get, like, why wouldn't you just be the arbiter of the disclosure in your office with all other things candidate? Because the Ethics Commission also has no, like, their purview is over state employees and electeds. They have no real.
Yeah, well, I think that is the way that this body has previously designed the Ethics Commission. The candidate financial disclosure form in its creation always went to the Ethics Commission. It was filed with the clerks, or with our office, depending on the type of office, but we were really the conduit for that piece of information to get to the Ethics Commission. I think in the balance of work and understanding that the Ethics Commission was newly being created and all of that, we were the person who hosted it with the petitions and the consent of candidate, but not that we are responsible for enforcing whether or not somebody did it. And that was the decision of this body in previous sessions. And in fact, the change that this committee, along with your sister committee, made in last session, our office didn't testify on this topic at all, which tells me that if we were contemplated to be part of this process, I would hope that we would have been consulted. We did not testify on this topic on candidate financial disclosure. So we are happy to be the vessel by which clerks provide us, or if it's statewide, we get it, the candidate financial disclosure form, and provide that information to the public and to the Ethics Commission. It makes sense to me that it's posted on our website. I think part of the rationale for that was that's where voters are going to get information. But our core problem is some of the changes that this body made in the last session made the candidate financial disclosure more complicated, more complex, I think with intention and desire to have more transparency over a candidate's financial situation. But the questions that candidates have are not black and white. and we do not have enforcement authority over the completion or the accuracy of this form. So our office really can't be in a place where we're answering questions about the candidate financial disclosure form for candidates, because we could be wrong, and we don't want to be in a place where we are disagreeing with the interpretation of what is a trust with the Ethics Commission's interpretation of what is a trust. We have had many questions around the form sent to our office, and the Ethics Commission is now actually telling candidates to contact us, even though we've been very clear we can't answer questions about the ethics, the financial form. So it's been really difficult. We have created, the Ethics Commission gave us a draft form that we put a cover sheet on to explain who to contact for which types of questions, that we put the flow chart on the back of, and that we said we're happy to answer questions related to petitions, consent of candidate, any other candidate questions. But if you have a question about the specific form, we cannot answer those questions. And we have provided it to candidates when they've asked, or to the parties. And we are asking that the Ethics Commission put that on their website, since they have expertise in that form. Interestingly, you know, the questions are exactly the same as the executive officer questions that I have to answer. So they do answer those questions for the executive officers.
Senator White?
Yeah, I guess like in a perfect world, I would prefer the Secretary of State's office to be doing it, since you facilitate candidate financial disclosures, like literal financial disclosures, like when I go on my
campaign
website.
finance.
Yeah, like you do that. So it feels like typically when folks have questions about their financials, it's also associated with their campaign financials. So I think in the ideal world, yes, you would actually be fully owning this and not having anything to do with the Ethics Commission until there's a violation. Because I think that's the difference, is it's not necessarily that you can't answer like appropriate questions or anything like that. It's when there is an identified conflict with the information on the form that creates an ethical problem. That's when I think the Ethics Commission has a role. But even in that reality, they don't do that now. So it doesn't feel like there's a clear way. Like, I think if the goal is we want people to act ethically, we want proper documentation and information, I think you're fully staffed in a way that there's nobody at the Ethics Commission. So I prefer that. But at this moment in time, I don't disagree with the way that the House has set it up, because I do think that there is a need for the lack of clarity is very confusing.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed is that people are so confused that they're more prone to make an error. And because of that, I do agree with the lack of penalties, which is very different than how I normally feel about this topic. But I was so confused. But I do have one.
If I could just respond for a second, because there was a lot there, and I just want to have the opportunity to respond.
Sure.
I can see a world, in fact, in the nation, there's quite a few secretaries of state who are more responsible for candidate financial disclosures. But there's a big difference between campaign finances and candidate financial disclosures. So I have to object to the term that we're fully staffed if we are taking on this additional responsibility.
Oh.
If we're talking about doing that, which is a conversation we can have, we would need an additional staff member, because we are not, I mean, the amount of work that our team is doing right now is very, very hard to explain, but we have absolutely no capacity for this issue. So fully staffed, we're fully staffed for the tasks that we are responsible for right now, but we're stretched right now for the tasks that we're responsible for right now. So we do not.
The elections division.
In the elections division, yeah.
And remind us how many staff you have.
We have 6. And we're ballot proofing, working with the US Post Office. I mean, we're all hands on deck. We have every day a deadline that needs to be done for the August primary and for the general election. We're already in the election cycle from our calendar. It seems like it just all comes together. There's a ton of work on the back end of that in terms of working with our printers.
We appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I do just have one question.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your response. And I think, So I appreciate your response.
I'm not saying the ethics commission is fully staffed. I have a lot of empathy for the ethics commission and, we have long supported, the Secretary of State has long supported the ethics commission, its creation, its staffing. We do believe in having an ethics.
Oh, yeah, ditto. But I did just want to point out, I do think the forms are different. And I think that's also a point of confusion because it sounds like the Secretary of State's office has been saying this form that was sent to us, like Senate GovOps got a form that is an older version of the form. And then there's a new form that was created by the Ethics Commission that is separate. So I don't actually think the questions are the same.
I'm sorry, I don't know which form you.
So this is a form that, and Senator Wichowski could be better at explaining this, but long story short, there's been a exaggerated email exchange trying to sort this out. And I think that's where the point of confusion is. This is the form that Senator Wichowski received from the Ethics Commission that is different than the one that's posted on your website. So
we don't
There
have a
isn't anything
form.
on
We
the
haven't
website.
posted a form on our website.
No, a form was shared with this committee.
oh, okay, my apologies. The form that you shared with this.
By my understanding was the Secretary of State's office shared a form with us. It is posted on our webpage. It is however different than
Than the
the
one
one
that
the
the
ethics.
The one that we created is the most recent form that we received from the Ethics Commission, only with a cover sheet and with a flow chart on the back. It's not different. And in fact, we went line by line, and Paul from the Ethics Commission confirmed that there was no difference in the two forms.
Oh.
That the only difference was the cover sheet and the flow chart on the back.
Okay,
Well, there is a form on the internet that was given to Senator Collmore that
is different.
is different.
So
than this.
Ours, the one that we have given party chairs is this one. And all it has is a cover sheet on the front and the flow chart of the statute on the back.
Okay, that might need to be sorted out because
There are two
piece of
forms.
paper is different that he got.
Can I see the form that you have?
Maybe
Yeah.
because we looked down, we're like, he was asking me specifically about trusts, for example,
Yeah.
which is called out in here, but is not called out in
I
that.
think that's the old,
I'll check on that. See that.
well, this is,
That does have trust in it.
yeah, this is the
So it
one.
does have all, it is all the same.
Yeah,
Did you find it?
Oh,
I did.
oh, maybe it's a slightly reorganized form.
This is, so I'm looking at page one. Sorry, I have to go like this.
So you did find,
They may be similar.
oh,
I may
Page one is exactly the same.
so do you have Z? Because that was the one that we struggled with. It was around trusts.
Yep,
Okay.
So here's the other thing, Lauren,
yeah, D, I see it.
we're now a week and a day
Yes,
past the
yes.
opening date for
Oh, cool.
candidates to file.
Yeah.
I went on over the weekend, trying to be earnest to some degree, and checked the Secretary of State's webpage. There is no form there.
Right.
There is a link to the Ethics Commission page, which I clicked on, and I went there, and there's no form there either. So if I didn't have these forms already kind of,
Yeah.
I don't want to
So-
say we cheated by getting them, but
No,
if a candidate who is running has no idea where to find it, you know, my only thought is eventually your office is going to feel tremendous pressure in the last couple of weeks
we
because
are, we're feeling it already.
Yeah.
So what we have done is we've reached out to all the party chairs and given this form to them and
Ah.
asked them to communicate with
Okay.
their candidates. And we've asked the Ethics Commission to post it on their website. But that's how we've managed this.
they have not, to my knowledge.
They have not posted on their website.
Oh,
Senator Mihoski.
Again, circle back. Like if I was a candidate, say I'm a newer candidate and I'm running as an independent, I'm going to go to the Secretary of State's Elections Division candidate page to look for everything that I filed.
Yeah.
And which is why I come back to this really should live with the Secretary of State's office.
Well,
And the ethical violations aspect, the ethics committee is there to rule on whether or not someone who has been elected or is serving in a state employee role has violated the ethics of that role.
Right.
As a candidate, there is no ethics code that they are beholden to.
Right.
There's morals and values, but there is no ethics code that they are
Yeah.
beholden to. So the ethics commission to me just should have nothing to do with this.
well, and I'm happy to have that conversation. I just don't think this
Yeah.
particular moment at this time in this session is the time to have it. And I would say if it were moved to the Secretary of State's office, obviously we would need a position and it should be informed by the Attorney General's office, not the Ethics Commission. But because that's who enforces campaign finance violations. But you know,
That makes sense.
I can't
We can't do.
I can't do that right now, and we are in the candidate filing disclosure. If an independent candidate is running and they contact us and they're not part of a party, Senator Bohosky, of course, we would send them the form. I mean, they would get the form from us via email. We just really cannot take on the responsibility of answering questions about this form that we did not create. We're not responsible for. We don't know the intent of the questions. We don't know the intent of the legislature around asking these questions. We just we would be so far behind what we're not capable of answering these questions. And at this moment, we don't have the capacity to become capable of answering these questions.
But can the form be posted with all of the other candidate information on the Secretary of State's Elections Division, like a candidate case?
So our request and what the House Government Operations asked the Ethics Commission to do is to post the form on their website. We'll link to the Ethics Commission's website. And I have seen FAQs that the Ethics Commission has been working on to answer these questions, which are excellent. And to have those posted on the Ethics Commission's website and to say, beyond this, the Ethics Commission does not have capacity to answer any additional questions. That would be phenomenal because we would link to candidates. We put that in our candidate information. We would get candidates to the Ethics Commission where they could get the master copy of the form. It makes sense to only have it posted in one place. And then for them to have FAQs that are limited in nature around specific questions that we know people are going to have and that they have answers to, because I've seen the answers on their website, so that then we can say the Ethics Commission does not have any more staff to answer questions outside of this. Fill out the form. What we've been saying to people is fill out the form to the best of your ability, reach out to the Ethics Commission. It doesn't seem like they're going to be able to prosecute you under the intent of the legislation. And if you've made a good faith effort to get an understanding of the question, that it will help if you're prosecuted. But that's what we're saying.
I guess I don't understand why that, if that FAQ exists, why that and the disclosure can't just be on the Secretary of State's website. Like that is where candidate stuff lives.
It
Both links.
could be, but we would just link it to the Ethics Commission because it's their form to create and maintain. That's the language that this body put. So we're saying that was the intent of the legislature. It didn't say the Secretary of State would create and maintain. And it doesn't seem, it's fairly easy to post something to a website. They updated their website language 2 weeks ago, so they do this. So it doesn't seem insurmountable to have them be responsible for that and for us to link to their page.
Okay, I'm taking it from your testimony that you support both sections 4 and 5 and the House version.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say Secretary of State is uncomfortable with 5. But given where we are and in the cycle and this ambiguity, I think 5 is appropriate.
Without trying to put you on the spot,
You do?
and I try not to do that.
Yeah.
Would it make any sense for us to, for 1 year, suspend the disclosure form
We figured it out.
until we, I mean,
I think. that
like I
makes
said,
sense.
we're a week and a day already into what would normally be a 4-week process. If we don't figure this out in the next couple of days, the Secretary of State's office is going to be deluged at the last minute with all of the stuff that's going to be coming in. So maybe it's better to just put the candidates' consent form and the petitions and let that be in place for this coming
Yeah.
election cycle. And then next year we can figure out a
And then
better.
in January, each chamber has its own disclosure form to the clerk and to the secretary.
Well, yeah, ours is a little bit easier. It's 1 page and it doesn't go quite as deeply as this one does, but
Oh.
it's just an idea. You don't even have to say whether you would like that or not. Because again, I didn't ask it to put you on the spot. I'm just suggesting that might be an alternative.
Well, I think this is not a question that has not been asked before, so you're not putting me on the spot or our office on the spot. I think we support having a candidate disclosure for the purpose of transparency. And we like transparency, for candidates, financial disclosure and campaign finance disclosure, obviously two very separate things. But if that was a decision of the body, that would provide clarity to candidates for
And a little
sure.
relief over
And a
that.
little, and a little relief. I mean, the whole reason why we have been concerned about this has been when a petition is received and when the consent of candidate is received, that starts a large amount of work reviewing each of those signatures and making sure that the consent of candidate is legally correct. And so there is tremendous work, and we are anticipating 500
Yeah.
candidates. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. Did you have something else on appeals?
I don't, it's such a difficult spot to be in at this point in the game, and this is gonna shock people. I think I don't generally support the removal of the being able to hold people actually accountable for doing what we say, but I think that it's just not fair at this
Yeah.
point
That's
to be saying, we're gonna fine you for not doing something that has been made almost impossible for you to do.
Right.
I don't know that I would love that I like the idea of just totally getting rid of the requirement, because I think most people will file it because they're supposed to file it without, and so we'll still have more transparency than we would have if we just got rid of the whole thing.
I agree. In fact, I will tell you, we are seeing that. People aren't filing this right now.
They are, I thought,
No, you could start now.
Oh, we've
I
already.
thought it was no longer available on either website that it had.
I've sent it to people who have asked me if I have it, more.
I know, but they shouldn't have to ask you. You're not the Secretary of State or the Ethics Commission. So I mean, the places they're going to get it. I thought it was no longer, that it wasn't up.
No, I think the
I have it in
confusion.
a PDF that was sent to me by the.
It isn't up in either.
It is?
It
And
is not.
so
That's
like,
what
when
I
I sent to the whole Senate after it was raised on the floor the other day was I just downloaded the PDF that the Ethics Commission sent me and forwarded it to all the senators.
But that's not what a
But
lot of
that's not
people
what should be
do.
happening.
That's not the way it should be.
Right.
No, oh no, it's
So-
a mess, and some people aren't gonna be able to find it, and so that is why temporarily I do actually support not having a fine associated with not being able to do it.
Yeah, that's, I agree.
I actually would support Brian's suggestion, which is I would suspend the damn thing until the Secretary of State and the Ethics Commission can come into agreement. The objective, I think we were clear on and we all agreed to do, which was have a disclosure for both candidates and then again as a senator, as a state rep. I think until we get our act together, it's unfair for candidates to have to.
Go Senator White and then Lauren.
Yeah, can I just ask a question though? This aside, if I get elected, re-elected, I still have to fill out the financial disclosure
Yes.
form.
To the Secretary of the Senate.
That makes me comfortable with either of these positions because I'm not even sure what a candidate, other than misusing their campaign funds, would be subject to before they're elected to. Like, how would you have an ethics violation as a candidate if you are not in a position of power to have an ethical violation? Like, that's what's confusing to me, is a candidate could really only accept money that is not appropriate. They're not taking votes. There's no exchange of quid
There's no
pro
quid pro
quo
quo yet.
because there's no power involved. So that's what's confusing to me about this whole introduction of candidates as well. But
Go ahead, Senator.
and then,
So that's your point is why I don't think this belongs with the Ethics Commission.
Yeah.
So I might want to know as a voter if the candidate that is running works for Vermont Gas. I might want to know if the candidate that is wanting to get my vote has $100,000 of stock in oil. Like, it's not about violations, it's about information. And it's about what possible quid pro quo relationships might exist
Yes.
should this candidate get elected. And that is why I don't think the form belongs with the Ethics Commission. There is no possibility of an ethics violation. But I do think there's important information there. If I've got a candidate who is all of their stuff is like, I'm here for a Green New Deal, but then I find out they have $100 million invested in oil. That's information I would want to know before I voted for them. I would not want to wait until I voted for them. They're elected to the Senate. They file their disclosure with the Secretary of Senate. And I find out, oh, hey, look, they've got $100 billion invested in oil.
Yeah. And but to your point, I think it's a different purpose.
Go ahead, Lauren.
I just had forgotten one other piece of outreach that we've done with the PDF that you all folks have posted, which is we also have given it to all the clerks. And so clerks are able to give it to candidates when they come in with their petition or their consent of candidates.
So if they came into the clerk with their petition and the clerk, I know every time I've gone, my county clerk has flipped through it.
Yeah.
And then saw, oh, you don't have this disclosure.
They would
They
be
can
able
hand
to
it to them
try
right there.
And we talked to the clerks.
So then I feel a lot more comfortable leaving it as a requirement. I feel slightly less comfortable getting rid of the penalty. Because there's lots of opportunity, but there has been a lot of confusion and
Too much.
the kindness in me says, let's wait till next year.
Yeah.
Emma, did you want to make a point?
Yes, I'm Michelle with the Clerks Association. We would love to wait the year. We would like to work with the Secretary of State, but we are also not the Ethics Commission. And we also don't want to be answering questions. We would love to be able to direct them to the Ethics Commission or a link on the Secretary of State's website to the, but we are not the Ethics Commission and we do not want to get caught up in, well, my clerk said, and we're wrong. I mean, there's how many clerks in the state? Like, it's just a slippery slope in my opinion, our opinion.
What's to stop a clerk from simply saying, I don't know?
That, I think that is what the clerks and the Secretary of State are doing. But I think ultimately, right, at this moment, before we have the larger conversation, and, you know, if the Ethics Commission had this responsibility removed, it's moved to the Secretary of State, that would be a much bigger conversation. But until we have that conversation and whether the legislature wants that conversation, I think this responsibility was put with the Ethics Commission because the Ethics Commission was intended and is independent from any elected official. And that was the intent. Again, I wasn't part of the conversations that put it there.
Senator Larson.
So if we suspended this requirement for this election season, who is going to be responsible for resolving this problem, clarifying it, and moving forward?
This committee.
My concern with if we suspend it this year is we're gonna find ourselves right back here in 2
Well,
years.
exactly.
suspending
And
it.
so we're not going to be back. That is not what we're going to do. We're going to have work on fixing it in between. So that's my question is, how do we then go about? If we're going to suspend it, I'm happy to do that. But I want to make sure that we're moving forward and trying to solve this problem. So just suspending it is not enough. We have to solve the problem.
I just don't have, given where we're at with the Ethics Commission and the number of times we've kicked the can down the road to strengthening that work in any way, I have zero faith that if we suspend this, we won't just die again next year.
Well, there's that concern as well. I would have less concern about that is if we also, before we left, appointed a group of people that were responsible for resolving the problem and bringing it back to us next year in legislation.
We could probably, well, can you write that into the bill?
Yes,
Well, you can't force a
We can't bind
a future legislature to do something, I don't think.
if we can solve, we can
It would
create
be
a
awesome.
tab.
I mean, we can have them bring us a report that we ignore.
We
No,
could
we
just get
can-
optimistic about it.
We can identify a group of people who are tasked with the job of coming to resolution on this and proposing a recommendation next year. We absolutely can do that.
I know we can, but as you well know, you've been in this building a lot longer than I have. A future legislature can just ignore that report.
Yeah, but you are the future legislature,
Maybe.
and I am hoping you all will be, and you will. And Lauren definitely will at her job, hopefully. So we're, you know,
That's one.
I am
I'm sure, wanting to resolve this as much as the rest of us.
I am just really uncomfortable given how it has been like tearing teeth from like a T-Rex to get any type of movement in the right direction on this. I am hesitantly comfortable eliminating the penalty for a year. I'm very uncomfortable suspending all of it.
Okay. So because your concern is we'll never be instated.
Yes, because we are, I mean, how many times have we heard? And it appears to me that as a whole, this is, that we keep tasking, do more, do more, do more. We're not going to give you the resources to do more. We're not going to actually put into place any type of, for campaign finance violations, we've been talking about penalties the entire time I've been in this building and we've never done it. And so for me, if we're starting to roll back stuff that we already done, and I mean, we did this, we rolled back some stuff a year or so, that it feels to me like we don't really want to invest in this work as a broader. And so I am hesitant on this issue specifically, that if we roll it back, it's never coming back.
I appreciate that concern.
The evidence shows me that that is a very.
So then you would be supportive of just simply for the selection cycle, eliminating the consequence. Yes. Well, we'll see how good we all are about abiding by the intent and.
This, and I feel even more confident with that now that the Secretary of State has let us know the different ways that this form can be made accessible to someone who is running.
But it's still not available on either website.
It is still not available on either website.
Well, this language would have it be what's available on the Ethics Commission's website. The language in this bill would
Have it be
Why
available
is
just
that?
on the Ethics Commission website.
That's correct.
Oh, no, I think it's gotta be linked.
Well, we would link to it, but the master form would be on the Ethics Commission, and you have a commitment that we would link. We would say.
Didn't you have it linked last time?
We had the form on our website last time.
Yeah.
But the form was in a very different format and with a lot less questions. And the language used to be prepared, and this body made it create and maintain. So last session, you took it from prepared to create and maintain.
Okay, I'd still like to investigate removing it, but I understand Senator Bielski's point.
Yeah.
Well, no, I have a question for Lauren. If this language is needed to have it on the Ethics Commission website and previously it was on your website, I guess, I'm confused. Because previously the testimony is that's what we already were saying was going to be done. But now we need language to do that.
I'm sorry, I don't
So
understand.
previously you had said that the legislature had said that the Ethics Commission needs to have this on their website but now you're saying this language in this bill says the Ethics Commission needs to do that. So I'm confused why this language is even needed because that's what we already said.
Because the Ethics Commission is not doing it.
But you don't need to, if the language already tells them to do that, we don't need to change the language to tell them to do that. I am now questioning if the language actually tells them to do that.
Well, I think they would say that they do not have to put it on the website. But the language says that the Ethics Commission shall create and maintain this form. Any reasonable reading of that language that you took from prepared to create and maintain is that the Ethics Commission would have more responsibility, not less responsibility with regard to the form. And the Ethics Commission, it used to say prepared and now it says create and maintain. So our read in conjunction with the complexity of the changes that have been made to the form is that the Ethics Commission is responsible for the form. That's our statutory interpretation. And they disagree.
I also disagree, actually. So maybe I'm not reasonable because when I hear create and maintain, I hear create and make sure it's updated. Not it has to be on the website.
That is their reading too, but that is not our reading. And the House Government Operations took that language and said, Ethics Commission, put it on your website. And we said that we would link to the Ethics Commission's website, and we will do that.
Right. And now I don't know that I support the House's language because I don't read the create and maintain to mean that the Ethics Commission is responsible for. No, I read that to mean that they will make it and make sure it's up to date.
And hold it in their archives or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I don't read that to mean that moves from your website to their website. I still think it belongs on the Secretary of State's page.
Well, we fundamentally disagree. And we are not equipped to answer questions about this form. And
because you haven't created it. So are you saying that because you haven't created it, you don't want to answer questions?
We don't have any expertise on this issue at all. We are not experts and personal finances for candidates.
Well, you're experts on finances for Canada because we
On
have to
campaign
on
finance,
campaign finance.
but
So
that's
you're expert
very
on that.
different than we
Right.
are experts on who should disclose, how you should disclose your spending on your campaign.
I appreciate
It's very different to get into tax law,
or
trust, or these stocks. I mean, I can't answer those questions. I've never had a stock portfolio worth disclosing to anybody. I don't know anything about stock.
Neither do I.
I'll say it on the record. I have, just.
we have to remedy that. I know what we're giving you for birthday present. The next time.
A share of something.
Absolutely. Brian and I will make sure that you get some shares of something.
Senator White.
Mr. Chair, thank you. If you were approached by a candidate. Okay, well, I'm just thinking, I understand you don't want to do it. I get that. I'm down for that, supportive of that. I do respect that you're saying we don't have the expertise, but typically, isn't the answer then you should talk to your lawyer? You should talk to your accountant to make sure you're in coordination with the law? That's why, like, wouldn't that be the easy, because to your point, like, I have no stocks that are of any interest. But if I did, I would probably have someone who's a professional who would be managing that and be able to help me understand that question. Like, is my spouse's trust more than 25K? Does that count? What I learned just through basic conversation, because I said, what about my 401k? My spouse has a pension. Does that count? It's worth more than $25,000. And what I learned almost instantly was it does not count on this form because we are not managing it.
Right.
We
And
don't
so
control.
the
So, yeah.
FAQs that I have
So
seen.
that's like, can you direct people to say, we can't answer questions, but you should talk to your tax professional, you should talk to your lawyer.
So,
The point of this is to find out what.
Wait, can I have Lauren answer it? I hear what you're saying.
That's just crazy that they answered you that way.
Yeah. So again, I would not feel like I should answer that question about pension or control or not. But I have seen, and if this body does want us to take responsibility for that, then we will get ourselves equipped to do that.
Yeah.
We are not equipped to do that right now, and we would ask for staff to do that. And again, just like the Ethics Commission, but we couldn't do it if we did not have an additional person.
Right,
Just like the Ethics Commission. So, and whether we get it or the Ethics Commission gets it, I think that's a decision for a future day. But I have seen some answers to some of the most common questions in an FAQ. I believe, I don't have that in front of me, obviously, but I believe the question you just posed is one of the questions. And I think that the Ethics Commission is the appropriate body to give guidance on that. And I also think there's a boundary by which any one of us needs to be careful, regardless of whether you're the Ethics Commission or the Secretary of State. We don't give legal advice. We don't give tax advice. We can't. So there's a lot of times that we say, this is our guidance, and then you need to consult an attorney in a lot of states. Yeah. And so even if you were to say, the Secretary of State's office is responsible for the candidate financial disclosure, there is a universe about a third of states have it set up that way. And it's okay that state has made a decision that it's okay that it's not an independent body. Vermont has not made that decision, but if you were to make that decision and we got staff, we could do that. And we would have a set number of questions that we answered. And then we would say, beyond this, you need to ask.
Yeah, that's kind of my, because thank you. That's very helpful.
It is helpful. And I sort of, again, circle back. There is the Ethics Commission has 2 half-time staff people. And we've tasked them to do with all kinds of things. Like, they don't need a staff position to do this. They need 3 staff positions to do with what we've already asked them to do. So I think that they're in a very different position. And I understand the Elections Division works very, very hard. And you are more staff than the Ethics Commission.
We are not more staff for what we are responsible for. I will push back on that.
The Ethics Commission has 0 attorneys on staff. And so And they're not answering ethical questions. They're answering, like, the questions you're posing are not ethics questions. They're questions that both of you should be saying, I can't give you legal advice. Like, I don't think it matters if the ethics commission, who has no attorney on staff, and two half-time people says, I can't give you legal advice, or if the Secretary of State's office says, I can't give you legal advice. But candidates are a fundamentally different animal than someone who's beholden. Candidates are beholden to the ethics code. That's what the ethics commission is there to uphold. Totally different animal. And I don't want to diminish how much work the elections division does. I know that they do. And I think my point is when a small-ish piece of additional work is spread across 6 people versus a person, it's a very different effect.
We do not have capacity to take on answering these questions. That there is no capacity to do that. And we are drawing in people outside of the elections division to help with what currently required of our team. So it's not a small-ish thing. It's something that if this is something that this body wants us to do, we could do it. We would need another person, and we would need time to get up to speed on what the legislature is asking candidates to disclose and what level of questions we would answer. We do not have capacity to answer those questions.
You probably
now.
can't in the next 3 weeks.
We cannot. And the Ethics Commission does have an attorney on contractors providing guidance to them on a contract basis.
Oh, my executive director is a lawyer.
Yes.
So
Okay,
I don't think we're coming to resolution on this.
oh, I know we're not gonna.
I do think that the best proposal we have at the moment for us to take and consider overnight is the elimination of the penalty, the elimination of consequences for not filing it, because I do not think we are prepared to receive it, evaluate it, do anything with it.
You're right.
But I do feel that I share Tanya's concern that if we eliminate it and suspend the full thing, we may never get it back. So simply eliminating the consequence of not filing it makes the most sense to me, because no one's prepared to deal with it. And then I do think it would be irresponsible for us to just leave it there, because I do think we have to set in motion a way for us to solve that problem.
I agree with you. But I also think that section 4, which is the section that firmly plants this with the Ethics Commission, is getting ahead of that conversation. That was added in the House.
In blue, so hard
It's
to read.
in red.
No, it's in
Simple.
blue and yellow.
Well,
It's in your
depending on what you're looking at.
colors.
I know.
to the rest.
Okay. That language that firmly, the dispute is about the existing statute. What does create and maintain mean? Now, in section 4, the House is saying this is what it means, which I think is way far out ahead of like we clearly can't agree that that is what it means. And so I think section 4 is incredibly premature and ahead of the conversation that you are saying we need to have to solve this problem. The House is just saying, this is the solution.
Let's assume somebody fills out the disclosure form from the Ethics Commission. Is that available for the general public to see?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Because
the,
I was gonna make a case where I think that's kicking it down the road just as much as not even taking the form and getting rid of the form. But if people can see that, I guess they could get more, but they don't know whether the answers to the questions have been answered either. So I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay, particularly if it's highlighted in this blue, you can't.
You can't even read it.
Okay, let's just for the heck of it, leave it for today and continue with
But
our discussion.
I would ask Lauren and Paul, if you're listening, and us to think about, no matter which option we choose, how do we solve this problem going forward? And who should be there to?
Well, I think Paul's made it clear how we solve it. We give them $500,000.
Yes.
yeah, I haven't heard the Ethics Commission saying they don't want responsibility of this form. They just don't have the capacity.
So we have the opportunity to give them the capacity.
If there's not that possibility, then I think we have to have a much more structured conversation on moving this function to the Secretary of State's office. And unfortunately, like, we have a little brain space to think about this, but this issue has already taken up way more time
Yeah.
than we have bandwidth for at this time, and we will not have bandwidth. The elections team will not have bandwidth to contemplate this until this.
Oh, until December, right? No, yeah.
Okay. Well, committee, feels like we've run a marathon, but, we have one yet to run. So we'll put this on hold. For another.
Yeah,
Okay. We'll adjourn for the day and see all of you tomorrow.